What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am home from Fort Myers, Florida. Back home in the shop now, trying to get back into the swing of things, get chiseling away at some work. Huge thanks to my friend Paul Barney for all of the accommodation as always, and for putting on Eurotripper, one of the best shows to make it out to, especially if you're in the Northeast. Getting down out in February into South Florida is like a dream. The 700 did great, ran awesome, verified that it is more than likely an exhaust valve on number one cylinder that's sticking, causing the misfire, which doesn't surprise me. I know in the last few episodes I talked about, I wasn't sure if it was a compression or an ignition issue that I had going on with the car, or a timing issue, I should say. Did turn out to be a compression issue with the valve, and that's exactly what I had originally thought, because we had that problem with the motor when I first put it together. So from here, not sure when I'm going to really dive into that. I'll probably do heads on the motor to just bypass that issue altogether and take care of it once and for all. I do have some air-cooled Volkswagen engine parts as well as an engine, but it's all back home in New Hampshire. But if you guys remember, maybe back last spring, last winter or so, I scooped up a 1970 Beetle off a friend of mine who had kind of given up on the project. Him and his father had worked on that car for years, just kind of picking away at it. They'd started with the pan, worked their way into the motor, and they were building a 1600 dual port stroker motor. I don't remember what that bores out to, but they had put a lot of time and effort into the motor and never got it running. They never finished it, but I have that motor and all of its parts. So I'm not really thinking about putting that motor in this car, although that would be pretty sweet to do a stroker dual port motor in the 700. But this 1500 single port motor is more than enough power for this car for how small and light it is. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see the other night I had some issues with the Corvair. Not really issues. I had issues with the city of Chattanooga and their roads and the Corvair. My girlfriend and I were out to dinner. We met up with Mason and a few other friends from Chattanooga. And upon going home, we took a road that we hadn't taken on the way in. And we drove over one of those real thick construction steel plates that they put over holes in the road that they're working on. I didn't see it in time to have enough time to air up or even try to go around it. And we plowed right into it and then up and over it and got beached. When that happened, from inside the car, the clutch pedal was thrown to the floor and stuck as if the clutch cable had been like pushed up or pulled real hard, and it was knocked out of gear. Once I realized there was no power to the air suspension control module, I was basically dead in the water. Then the first thing I did was I checked my ignition fuse for the Airlift 3P system, and that was just blown to shreds. Now, I didn't have my jack, didn't have my tools. As always, I've said this just a few episodes ago when I lost the fuel line in the Corvair. I didn't have anything with me. And as if I didn't learn anything from that, we ran into town for a quick bite to eat, back and forth. Should have no problems. Didn't bring any of my tools or my jack, and yet here we are, beached in the road yet again. But what I did have was I have a Ziploc bag full of 30 amp fuses in the glove compartment. So thank God I had that. I was able to get the fuse in, get the car turned back on, had power to my air suspension system, was able to air up high enough, but I was able to actually get a look underneath the car now that I could air it all the way up, and noticed that there was quite a bit of undercarriage damage that was going to keep me from being able to drive the car home. So luckily we were only a couple blocks from where we were hanging out with Mason and some friends, so I gave him a shout. They came down. We ended up pushing the car off to a side road where it could be under a street light and out of the way of heavy traffic. It ripped the forwardmost cross member of the belly pan, ripped that and the belly pan itself right back, and basically sandwiched it all up. And this is the carnage of the belly pan. So this belly pan covers your e-brake cable, your clutch cable, your fuel lines, your brake lines, all that run up this middle belly pan. Your shift linkage is in there, everything that goes to the back where the motor is. If it had just been this plate, the actual pan, I'd be able to just hammer it out, smooth it all out. Doesn't really matter what it looks like. As you can see, I'm constantly dragging it. I do drive the car super low even though it's on air. But what happened was the actual ladder frame that this bolts to, that stands down off the floor of the car, it actually ripped the front and sides of that frame out that this mounts to. So I haven't had a good chance to get under the car yet, or get up in the air and get under the car to figure out what damage has been done, but I know I'm going to have to rebuild that frame in order to get the belly pan to mount to it. It knocked the clutch cable off the pulley, and I wasn't sure if it bent the pulley as well because the cable didn't seem to want to stay on the pulley. Once I got the belly pan off, I was able to get access to that pulley easier and was able to get the cable back on and make sure that that wouldn't come off the pulley. Everything seemed to be still in alignment, which was good. So I was able to drive it home, which was probably a 8 to 10 minute drive or so. But before I could get that plan off, I had to have Mason give me a ride back here to the shop so I could get a couple jacks, get some tools, get some lights, get basically anything else I thought I might need to at least get the pan off and possibly fix anything else I might need to fix in order to drive it home.
They work for the city. He's always parking that one over there. Every time it's got good taste.
What I should have done was grab like some real long pliers so I could at least get access to that forward. There's a bolt that's still connected that it's like folded back over real hard.
I can get up on there. That's all good. Right now. Well, she was like, yeah, I can't wait for you to get live. I have a blanket. You want me to lay it down? Still in my bed.
What?
I mean, you've already laid down.
I'm all right.
It's dry.
What?
I'm working low.
If we were at home now, I'd be laying in 2 weeks ago. Oh, is that? Yeah.
I wish.
Southern hospitality.
I just wait till you're already on the ground.
Yeah. Hey, you want something
showing
oil?
like super low cars all the time.
So it could have been way worse, but I have yet to survey all the damage and see what needs to be done to fix everything properly. I have a lot to get ready for Riverside, which is coming up in about a month and a half. That's the first weekend of April right here in Chattanooga. I am going to be vending. I'm going to have a Ludwig's Garage booth there and going to be making some Ludwig's Garage merchandise, which I kind of did last year, but I'm going to be pushing it a little harder than the Governor's Club stuff this year. Probably redo the OG shirts, like my dad's old shop, Ludwig Service Center. We'll probably do these. I'm working with Josh from Like Hell in the United Kingdom on a really cool shirt design that I am so excited about. We're really hoping we can get them done in time for April. Josh is backed up. As you can imagine, he does a lot of really crazy work for a lot of big time people. He's booked out, but he's really excited about this project too. So he's been trying all he can to get it done in time. I'm hoping we can have some shirts and some posters and a handful of other things that I make myself, not just for Riverside, but I'll have available online for all of the rest of you guys as well. But another thing I'm doing today is I am going around the 6 Series once more before that gets picked up. My friend Nathan's going to be here probably this upcoming Tuesday or Wednesday in just a few days to load the 6 Series up and take it out to Walnut Grove, California, to my friend Sutton Morris's shop, Morris Motors. So what I think I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to gain access to the trunk. I don't have any keys for this car, and the trunk is either locked or broken. So I'm going to try to take the back seat out and gain access that way. I'm not exactly sure what it's got for a pass-through. I've already pulled the center armrest down in the back seat. It doesn't have one of the ski pass-throughs, so I'm more than likely going to have to gain access through just like a small hole in the rear firewall there. I think a chipmunk hitched a ride in this from my home in New Hampshire on the trailer when my uncle brought it down here, because I haven't seen a single chipmunk on this property since I moved here. Nothing but squirrels, not a single chipmunk. And there's one chipmunk that keeps going in and out of this car every single day. So I think he hitched a ride from New Hampshire to Tennessee, and I don't know if he's going to hitch a ride from Tennessee to Northern California. We'll see. That chipmunk won't have any idea what's going on once he gets out to California. All right, so unfortunately there's no access behind the rear seats into the trunk, which is unfortunate. Got most of the whole back seat out, center console, the top rear parcel shelf. A lot of the stuff is junk, complete junk. Just been cooking in the sun for 25 years, 23 years since the car was parked last. And these rear buckets though, I'm thinking these might have a life as the front seats in the 700. These would be pretty cool. OEM, might not even have to get them redone, just condition the leather as best I can. Not a lot of the stitching is coming apart like the front seats are, and you know, they'd fit right at home in the 700. I do like the metal bomber seats that are in that car, but these would be a really cool OEM seat to build some bucket like brackets for and put in the 700. No headrest, just run it as is. If not the 700, definitely a cool project in the future. As I just mentioned earlier, I do have that extra beetle pan, so I'm sure at some point in the near future, if not in the next few years, I might find a really cool project that's a rot box underneath that fit over a beetle pan, and maybe these buckets would find a home in that project, in a future project, or in the 700. Leave in the comments what you think I should do with these seats. Let me know if you think they'll fit well in the 700. Being BMW, I know I'd love that. Having everything OEM would be really cool. Reusing components is really kind of a neat thing. It's typical hot rodding. We got some bad news here. That's not so good. That's rear inner fender well. Not quite strut tower, but that's gonna have to be addressed. As well as here. It's tender. I mean, I knew that when I got it. Got to look under it. The floors are gone, so it's gonna need all the carpet up, lots of attention. All right, so I've got the back seats out of here. The bummer part is there's no access to the trunk. There's no factory access at all, except for the speaker holes in the actual deck lid, or the actual like unibody part of where the parcel shelf deck lid sits. There's nothing in that trunk. I don't even know. It looks like it might have the factory jack back there somewhere, like tucked in the side, but there's literally nothing back there. So I don't need to do anything else for right now. Before it goes to California, I don't need to do anything else, because I was hoping maybe it would be worth this amount of work if there was like a bunch of crazy parts back there. Some of you guys remember the story of my right-hand drive E23 7 Series I had back a few years ago. And when I bought that car, the trunk was stuck shut. I did have the keys to that car, but the trunk wouldn't open. It was on the previous owner's trailer behind his barn in the woods in Vermont. We were unloading it off of his trailer after I purchased the car to put it onto my father's trailer. And there was a snowstorm starting, so we were working with haste, trying to get things done quickly. His rear excess straps were shut in the trunk. And you guys know how I feel about that. But I was trying to open the trunk. Thought maybe it was locked. Tried with the key, wouldn't unlock, wouldn't open. So I just pulled the straps out with the trunk shut. The owner said, you know, it works. It's probably just too cold. It's probably just frozen, but don't worry, the trunk works. I was like, well, whatever. So I got home with my dad with the car, which is a whole nother story. We just about died on a mountain pass. The trailer came around sideways on us while I was driving. We were able to get the thing back in the road and didn't crash. But we got home and I put the car in my father's shop for the night, which is heated. And then the next morning, sure enough, that trunk popped right open and it was just cold. Well, in the trunk was filled with late 60s Porsche 911 and 912 parts. Mostly tin work, had like a rear trailing arm with a hub on it, a generator with a fan shroud, throttle linkage, more engine component tin work. But amidst all of that stuff, what was also in the trunk was a 1960 Porsche 356 VDM steering wheel. Now the steering wheel is missing the horn button, and most of those steering wheels aren't worth as much, obviously, without the horn button. But through some digging and checking online, I ultimately sold that steering wheel for $900 to somebody in Germany. My friend Robert from Move Technic ended up buying the rest of all the Porsche parts for probably, I think, around $300 or $350. I recouped more than half of what I had paid originally for the car in that trunk. So when I picked up that 6 Series out there without keys and a locked trunk, I certainly wanted to get into the trunk to see what might be hiding in there for possibly rare parts, because you never know what's going to be in some of the trunks or in cars that you purchase, underneath the seats or tucked away somewhere, especially in the trunk if it doesn't work. Now, I was just as hyped up, maybe even more than you guys, as to what could possibly be in that trunk because of what was in my 7 Series trunk when I bought that car. Today's a letdown. Trunk's empty, but definitely excited to find out what was in there nonetheless. But now I know it's headed out to California with an empty trunk. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Wanted to go through that car real quick once more before Nathan comes to pick it up in just a few days. I'm super excited to show you guys what we have in store for this car once it gets out to California to Sutton Shop. I'm hoping I can fly out there as many times as necessary this spring amidst everything else that's going on here. And be able to really get some steam going on that project. So again, that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Ludwig's Garage merchandise, both online and at Riverside coming soon. Super excited about that stuff. I will see you guys in the next episode.